What's up, YouTube? Timu's here. Now, here is my throwback segment where I talk about the films that turns 10, 20, and 30 this week. Alright, films celebrating their 10th anniversary. We got the second Hobbit movie, The Hobbit Desolation of Smaug, which this is pretty much, of course, this is the second installment of the Hobbit prequel, which was obviously a prequel to the Lord of the Rings franchise, with Peter Jackson returning. The film follows the Tyler character Bilbo Baggins, played by Mark Freeman, as he continues to accompany Daron Oakenshield and his fellow dwarves on a quest to reclaim the Lonely Mountain from the dragon Smaug. Now, of course, you have Benedict Cumberbatch voicing Smaug. So pretty much you had Sherlock Holmes and Watson both in this, which is interesting. Of course, you also have some other cast members like Orlando Bloom, Richard Armitage, Ian McKellen, also reprising his role as Gandalf. To be honest, out of all three of the Hobbit movies, I will say this is maybe the best one. I thought it was a really good follow up. Really, I really always liked the Smaug character. I thought the design looked really cool. Benedict Cumberbatch voicing the character is very frightening. I thought this was a really decent sequel. I know lots of people not many people are really a fan of the Hobbit films, which I guess I can see why. But I would say even like some of the naysayers of the Hobbit films would probably say that the second one is definitely their favorite. But yeah, it's a really decent follow up. So yeah. All right, let's see what else we got here. All right, other films turning 10. We of course got Tyler Perry's A Madea Christmas, which of course was pretty much a Tyler Perry Christmas film, which was like the 8th installment of the Madea universe. And it tells the story of Madea going to town to Bucktessa, Alabama, with her great niece. She spent Christmas with the great niece's daughter. And you had some decent cast members in this. Of course, you had Larry the Cable Guy popping up in this, Tika Sumpter. You also had Chad Michael Murray, Captain Jimmy. I actually had a fun time with this one. I mean, I know not many people are really big with the Madea movies, but I always had a fun time with them. Like, they're always really fun. They're always entertaining. Like, Tyler Perry really plays the Madea role well. And of course, after this, we would get like a Madea Halloween. It really felt like between Madea Halloween and even Madea Christmas, felt like Tyler Perry was trying to become like the new Ernest. Remember how like in the Ernest movies they always had Ernest goes to camp. The Halloween one definitely had a bit of like Ernest, but with Madea vibe here, and it's really fun one. I really had a fun time with it, and it's a shame they never actually did a sequel to this like they did with the Boost sequels. But hey, maybe the Boost sequels were like more well deserving for sequels, but still. All right. Also turning 10, we got David O. Russell's American Hustle, starring the likes of Christian Bale, Amy Adams, Jennifer Lawrence, Bradley Cooper. Now you also had like Robert De Niro. Now the film stars Christian Bale and Amy Adams, also known as Batman and Lois Lane, as two con artists who are forced by an FBI agent played by Bradley Cooper to set up an elaborate sting on corrupt politicians, including the mayor of Camden, New Jersey, played by Jeremy Renner. And of course, this was like David O. Russell's follow-up to Silver Linings Playbook. It is terrific. I mean, definitely one of my favorite movies of that year. It, of course, scored lots of Oscar nominations. Was, of course, the second collaboration between David O. Russell and Jennifer Lawrence and even Bradley Cooper. Coming off of Silver Linings Playbook, which, of course, won Jennifer Lawrence her first ever Oscar. And this movie scored lots of Oscar nominations. I believe it also won Cup of Two, if I'm not mistaken. Can't remember. But I definitely know that it actually got lots of nominations, like Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Actress. It's a really good film, and worth checking out. The true story aspect is really good. Like, if you guys never seen American Hustle, definitely give it a go. Also turning 10, we got another biopic film here, and that is Saving Mr. Banks. Now, this, of course, is pretty much about This stars Emma Thompson as Arthur P.L. Travers, and this is, of course, about the making of the iconic Oscar-winning film Mary Poppins. And pretty much delves into like the title from the father in the Travers stories, and depicts like the author's tragic childhood in rural Queensland in 1906, and 2 weeks of meetings during 1961 in LA, during which Disney attempts to obtain film rights to her novels. And of course, you had Tom Hanks, who played wonderfully as Walt Disney. Man, Tom Hanks, talk about a cool resume. He's played Sully Sullenberger and Sully, Mr. Rogers. I mean, he's good when it comes to playing true real life people. Of course, the same year he also did Captain Phillips, which he was great into. I thought Tom Hanks was perfect as Walt Disney. He really embodied Walt Disney perfectly. He really even sounded like Walt Disney, which I thought was great. But besides like Tom Hanks and Emma Thompson, another person who I think was terrific in this was Colin Farrell. Colin Farrell, I think, could have easily got an Oscar nomination that year, but that didn't really happen. You also had like Paul Giamatti was also in this, B.J. Novak. I always do love these movies about like how a film was made, and I thought Seamus Banks did it perfectly. I really liked how it does also partially take place in Disneyland as well, which I thought was really cool. So if you guys never seen Saving Mr. Banks, it's a really magnificent one worth checking out. Alright, also showing 10 is mostly an unknown film, but it's a movie called Hours, which starred the late Paul Walker. This movie actually came out like about a month after Paul Walker's passing. This was, of course, one of his last films he starred in. And in Hours, in New Orleans, just before Hurricane Katrina hits, a pregnant woman gives birth prematurely. She dies, and her baby is in critical condition. And of course, you have Paul Walker, who's trying to fight for survival too. It's a really decent film. Paul Walker really showed that I always thought Paul Walker always had potential to show that he's not just Brian for Fast and Furious. Like, he definitely has some cool acting chops, and he really showed it. I thought he was terrific. Janice Rodriguez was also in this. She was great. Really decent little film if you guys haven't seen it. All right. Now, films turning 20. Oh, we got some really good ones here. We got Tim Burton's film Big Fish. Now, the film tells the story of a frustrated son who tries to distinguish fact from fiction in the life of his father and a teller of tall tales. Now, this, of course, has like Ewan McGregor, Albert Finney, Jessica Lange, Helen Bonham Carter, Marion Cotillard, Steve Buscemi, Danny DeVito. A very young Miley Cyrus even pops up, which I always keep forgetting Miley Cyrus is in this. When we talk about like Tim Burton, I always go to like Edward Scissorhands, his Batman movies, and all. Big Fish is probably one of his underappreciated films. It's a really decent flick of great performances by Ewan McGregor. I believe Albert Finney scored an Oscar nomination for this, if I'm not mistaken. He was great in this. The effects was really cool. It's very touching. Really shows how good Tim Burton could really be when he's not just doing wackier stuff, And this is a little bit wacky, I guess, but it's still a really decent film worth checking out. All right, also turning 20, we got the romantic comedy Love Don't Cost a Thing, which was directed by Troy Beyer, starring Nick Cannon, Christina Milian, and it was actually a remake of the Patrick Dempsey classic Can't Buy Me Love, and even takes on the title from the Jennifer Lopez song the same name. Now, here's what the film's about. You got Nick Cannon, who plays a science nerd named Alvin Johnson, who is proficient at engineering, but incompetent when it comes to a thing. But of course, he has like tons of kids, so I guess he's good in that department nowadays. Of course, one day, popular girl Paris Morgan, played by Christina Milian, who I've always had a crush on Christina Milian, who never, appears in the auto shop where he works after school, and she has damaged her mother's car and then gently requests repairs. Alvin offers a bribe. He will fix the car immediately in exchange for 2 weeks of dating. And so, of course, Paris agrees, and Alvin is able to enter the sacred realm of the popular kids, but at what cost? Now, you also had the likes of Steve Harvey, Cal Penn, Keena Thompson was in this. It's actually a really decent little rom com. Nick Cannon and Christine Milian both had some good chemistry. Um, it's a really decent flick worth checking out. So, not. I mean, of course, Nick Cannon was really, he was coming off like being a Nickelodeon kid, and of course, at the time he did other stuff like, remember he did Roll Bounce. He also did some other cool roles, and this was a really decent little role for him. So, not a bad flick there. All right, also turning 20. Oh yeah, another film turning 20 is another romantic comedy that got released that week, and that is the Nancy Meyers classic Something's Gotta Give, which stars Jack Nicholson and Diane Keaton as successful 60-something and 50-something who find love for each other in later in life, despite being complete opposite. You also had Keanu Reeves, Amanda Peet, John Favreau, uh, Frances McDormand. It's actually a really decent little flick. Like, yeah, you also see a lot of Diane Keaton in this as well. That's something to talk about there too. But Jack Nixon, like, at the time he was really shown like he was not just set. He was just not that bad guy anymore. Like he could really do like he's really great with comedy. Of course, at the time he also did Anger Management. He did he did this. He also did About Schmidt at the time too. And he was really terrific in this. Diane Keaton was really decent. Nancy Myers, obviously, she's a romantic comedy legend, and she did a really good job with this one. So if you guys haven't seen Something's Gotta Give, definitely give that one a go. All right, also turning 20 is another comedy, and that is the Fairley Brothers classic Stuck on You, which starred Matt Damon and Greg Kinnear as conjoined twins whose conflicted inspiration provide both conflict and humorous situation. In a particular, when one of them wishes to move to Hollywood to pursue a career as an actor. Now you also had cameos by the likes of Cher. You even had a very young Bella Thorne was in this. Ava Mendes, Meryl Streep, Luke Wilson, Jesse Ventura, Ben Carson, Jay Leno. You had some fun cameos popping up here and there. And it's actually a really fun flick. Of course, Fairley Brothers are really great when it comes to these type of comedies. We've seen that with like Dumb and Dumber 2, The Three Stooges, Shallow Hal. They've put out some really cool comedy stuff. And this is a really fun one we're checking out. Definitely has a bit of like that Dumb and Dumber vibe. And Greg Kinnear and Matt Damon really both had good chemistry with one another too. So not a bad little comedy if you guys ever seen that. All right, also 2020, we got Girl with a Pearl Earring, which was directed by Peter Weber and starred the likes of Scarlett Johansson, who plays Screed, a young 17th century servant in the household of a Dutch painter, Hosan Vermeer, played by Colin Firth. All the time he painted Girls with a Pearl Earring in 1665 in the city of Delft in Holland. He also had Tom Wilkinson, Cillian Murphy, Ezzie Davis way before Babadook fame. And this is a really decent little charming film. Scarlett Johansson was great. You had Colin Firth, who's always terrific. I always like the production aspects. That was really cool. So yeah, a really decent flick there too. Also turning 30 this week, we got the Oscar-winning film Schindler's List. Just think about it. In 1993, Steven Spielberg gave both Jurassic Park and Schindler's List in the same year. Talk about mind blown right there. Now, Schindler's List is, of course, it's a great film, but it's not really those films that you could go watch over and over again, especially it's a little bit hard to watch at times. Of course, you had like Liam Neeson, And of course, you had like Lisa playing the role of Oscar Schindler, who's a journalist in those industrious who saved more than 1,000 mostly Polish Jews refugees from the Holocaust by employing them in a factories during World War II. You also had like Ray Fiennes, Sir Ben Kingsley, and yeah, of course, it was in full on black and white. Liam Neeson. I feel like this is actually the movie that really put Liam Neeson on the map for most people. Of course, obviously, when you think of him now, you think of him Taken, like lots of cool action roles. But here, he really shined. Of course, Ray Fiennes was great. I believe this is also a movie that really put Ray Fiennes on the map for most people too. Ben Kingsley was terrific in this. I mean, it's a really intriguing film worth checking out, with great performances all around. Of course, it won the Oscar for Best Picture. It is crazily that this was actually the first time Steve Spielberg won an Oscar, by the way. Like, won an Oscar for Best Director, which is insane to believe, you know? But yeah, it's really intriguing. I mean, if you guys have never seen Schindler's List, do yourself a favor, check it out. But B1, it's very hard to watch. Now, other films turning during this week, we got the Pelican Brief, which, by the way, this also has like Julia Roberts and Denzel Washington. And I just checked out that movie that Julia Roberts just did on Netflix. What's it called again? Yeah, Leave the World Behind. Cool fact, that movie could have easily had a Pelican Brief reunion, because at the time Denzel Washington was attached to a star on this, but of course I guess he was replaced by Mahershala Ali, which, hey, Mahershala Ali actually played the part really well, so there's that. But the Pelican Brief is a really decent drill. Like, Julia Roberts is always so estimated when it comes to drills. Like, whenever you think of Julia Roberts, you always go think of rom-coms, like, like a Pretty Woman or Oscar bait movies like Aaron Brockovich, which of course she won an Oscar for. Not many people talk about drills. Like, obviously, Sleeping with Enemy is a good one. I actually did not really mind Leave the World Behind. I know there are some people who may say they're not a fan of it. I thought it was actually an okay film. Weird ending. I'll probably do my review for that when I get a chance to. But as for the Pelican Brief, this is actually based on a novel by John Grisham, and it was directed by Alan J. Pakula, who is best known for producing To Kill a Mockingbird. He directed stuff like Clute, All the President's Men, Devil's Own. And in the film, it stars Julia Roberts as young law student Darby Shaw, and Denzel Washington as, wait for it, Washington Herald reporter Gary Grantham. Denzel Washington plays a Washington reporter. I find that funny. And of course, this was actually one of the last movies that Pakula wrote and directed before his passing. And it's a really decent little thriller. The chemistry between like Julia Roberts and Denzel is really great. I hope they actually reunite for a new film in the future, because that would be cool. But you also had the likes of Sam Shepard, John Hurt, Stanley Tucci, Cynthia Nixon, John Lithgow. It's a really decent little thriller, like a little cat and mouse thriller too. Really more like a political thriller, and it's a really well worth check out. Also Train Dirty, not the first film, but Beethoven's second. Now, I love the first Beethoven. It's always cute, charming. Who does not love that dog? Come on. This time around, you got Charles Grodin and Bonnie Hunt, who reprised their roles as George and Alice, also known as the Newman, who are in for another St. Bernard adventure when the dog Beethoven falls in love with a fellow canine, Missy, and makes a family of his own, but instead of being one happy family, Missy's owner, Regina, played by former Goodfellas actress Debbie Mazur, wants to sell off the puppies to make a huge profit. Springing into action, the Newman kids rescue the little dogs before Regina can make her deal, but she's determined to get them back. Now, you even had a young Danny Masterson, which, yeah, we don't talk about that there. Now, the first Beethoven is a classic. For some reason, they decided to do a couple of sequels. And yeah, the sequel just did not really do anything. It's awful. It's not a good sequel at all. It's not all that funny. Does not really make what does not have that same flavor that made the first one good. I mean, this really felt more like, let's say, the Beethoven sequels ended up becoming a little bit like the Home Alone sequels, except for Home Alone to that. I mean, yeah, but yeah, it's just the sequels just aren't all that good. And Beethoven Second definitely proved that it's not all that funny. It's not all that charming as the first one. It's yeah, not a fan of the sequel there. So yeah, there are actually some people who do like it, and that's cool, but I don't want them. But that's pretty much it there. Let me leave it to you guys. Which of these films stand out to you the most? To me, the 10-year one is, all due respect to American Hustle, that's great. I'm actually going to go with Saving Mr. Banks. Like, that movie is just, is magnificent. If you guys never seen Saving Mr. Banks, it's on Disney Plus. Go watch it. It's terrific. Um, the ones that stand out to me, the 20-year one, let's see. I'll probably go with Tim Burton's Big Fish. That's a really good one. And the dirtier one, obviously, will be Steven Spielberg's Schindler's List. Anyway, drop comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell for notification. This is Simon signing out.